Right, it's doing it now. Sorry. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Irish Abroad Show. It's myself, Paul Tierney, and I'm joined by the main host, Jer Brown. Jer, how are we today?
Oh, good, Paul. Another good show to get through today, of course. Obviously, last weekend of club football before you. Another international window. Obviously, the big game tomorrow night in the Aviva. But yeah, decent Irish involvement once again from the Premier League. Plenty of talking points from that as well. Obviously, just a one round of games in Championship this week. And obviously, we had the novelty as well, the first round of the FA Cup, and there was plenty of Irish involvement there. And as there always is, further afield in Scotland and throughout the rest of the globe.
Yeah, definitely. The best competition in the world, the FA Cup, started now. Arsenal practically have owned it the last couple of years, so I'm always happy when it comes around, even though Arsenal don't start in it till January.
You aren't the
Um,
holders at the moment, though. So,
no, not holding it at the minute, but have the most overall and have won it for the last 7 years, so I'm taking claim. Um. Anyway, we'll kick off into it. Start off with the Premier League. Andrew Omobamidele played the full 90 minutes for Norwich in their first win of the season. My God, didn't see that coming at all against Brentford on Saturday. Adamida was also on as a sub. Omobamidele also got a yellow card in that game. But the main talking point from that is, after winning the game, first win of the season, the manager sacked.
yeah, I think it's pretty clear that this was a pre-planned decision. I think they probably made their mind up. Maybe possibly the Chelsea game, but I would say the Leeds game. That they probably were going to get rid of Daniel Farke. Obviously, an opportunity now with the 2 week window coming up and everything else like that. It's just kind of unfortunate. It's a bit cruel because you're kind of thinking, right, it's fine, you got to turn things around. I know there's international window, but there's a chance for maybe to build momentum. They got their first win. They rode a little bit of luck, had to hang on towards the end, bit of poor shooting from Brentford, had a goal disallowed as well from VAR. But to be honest, I'm not overly surprised with this one. Brentford have dropped off since the last international break. It's now 4 defeats in the bounce for them. But unlike other managers that have suffered similar runs, I don't think Thomas Frank will be under any major pressure. Like at the end of the day, Norwich are going to win a game at some stage. I
Yeah.
said in the show last week, I still think they'll probably win about 4 or 5 games this season, up against a team in Brentford who they would have played last year in the Championship. Now, I think they drew the game at the Brentford Community Stadium last year, but they'd be familiar with them. They would have been kind of quite confident. So, yeah, look, it's. I think overall, I think it's still the right decision. I still think, like, look, Daniel Farke has had his chance, as you say, like that was their first win in 20 games in the Premier League. It's not just this season they've looked out at their depth in the Premier League, as you touched on Project Restart as well. I don't think they even won the game. I don't even know if they picked up many points in that run of games. And they had games against similar oppositions from the likes of Southampton, Burnley, West Ham, who were struggling at the time. Brighton all played them, and Watford even as well, all bet them. So can't have any kind of complaints. All accounts, pretty positive display for Andrew Omobamidele, despite, as you mentioned, picking up a yellow card. He got a 7 out of 10 rating from Norfolk Live, saying he smothered the Brentford attack and dominated in the air, forming a good partnership alongside the captain for the day, Ben Gibson. And as you touched on, Adamida came on for his usual stoppage time appearance. It's actually the fifth time now this season Adamida has been brought on from the 88th minute onwards. His longest run-outs in the league have just been 14 minutes, those coming on the opening day against Liverpool and last week against Leeds. So hopefully a new manager might bring more opportunity for the Corkman.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, bit mad. That's a mad stat, to be fair. And still think it's a mad stat that he's played more for Ireland than he has for Norwich, considering
Yeah.
he plays more games for Norwich as well overall.
The
Yeah.
only thing I will say, I can defend Daniel Farke's situation and leaving him very late to come on because of the situation, the game they're in. They were 2-0 up. They probably knew they were going to face a press and pressure coming from Brentford in the second half, and it was going to be backs against the jobs kind of type of wall. It's not the type of game where you're going to be looking to bring on more attackers and expand their lead. They knew they were going to have to be up against it. So I can understand that a little bit, but like uh, I mentioned, that was the fourth other time. I think the other games where he's come on that late are, I think they're 2-1 down against Watford, a newly promoted team as well, and 0-0 draws against the likes of Brentford, not Brentford, sorry, Brighton and Burnley. No excusing those ones for me.
Yeah, definitely. I think the other point to make as well is that they did finish 2 places ahead of Brentford last year. I know Brentford came up via the playoffs, but they were probably looking at this game as a chance to get points. I thought they weren't too bad against Leeds. I did watch that. I thought that would have been a game where they would have been looking to win too. I actually thought they might have won that. But look, listen, as you said, they had to win sometime. It's going to be the same situation with Newcastle in the next few weeks as well. They're going to have to win at some stage.
Yeah.
So yeah, at least they've got a result now, and the players can maybe kind of kick on. I know, unfortunate for Daniel Farke, he's gone, but if they can get a manager in who can be competitive with the rest of the league, like, I still think they're going to go down. But look, that's the main thing. Is just if they can compete in games more so than they have in the first few weeks. We'll move on swiftly to Newcastle. As I mentioned, they played Brighton on Saturday evening. Shane Duffy and Kieran Clark played for either side in it. And Kieran Clark got an assist, apparently, according to live score, for Isaac Hayden's goal. I'm not sure about it. I didn't actually see it. But
Oh, he definitely did, yeah.
yeah, definitely did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's good going for him as well. And a 1-1 draw, another draw for Newcastle. Still haven't won a game this season. But Brighton continue their solid enough form. Haven't lost that many games. Still well up in the table. And a great start for them so far.
Yeah, still holding their own so far, Brighton. I still think they'll be very, very happy. This is probably a game they might have kind of quite targeted, but I think in the end, after Newcastle got that goal from Isaac Hayden, there's no two ways about it. It definitely was an assist for Kieran Clark. A nice cushion header down to Hayden. Atoning for an earlier mistake, he gave away the penalty that Leonardo Trossard converted for Brighton to put them 1-0 up. But I think it's no win now in the league, though, since September 19th for them. I think that's now 6 games without win. So they've just kind of staled off a little bit, but they're still, as you say, holding their own because they're getting kind of a nice couple of draws. You look at the table, they're still in a very, very healthy situation, not far off European places. They'll be absolutely chuffed at where they are. Like, I think at the end of the day, like, they made such a fast-paced start, no one expected them to keep it up, and that, I think we said it before in the show, we probably expect them to finish around mid-table. So it's no surprise a little bit of a slump is going to come in. I think they'll probably be up and down for the rest of the season. Like I said, holding on to a top 10 finish. As for Shane Duffy in this game, of course, he's seen his centre-back partner, Lewis Dunk, go in between the goals late on that game and didn't have anything to deal with. I think he was probably relieved that he didn't have to face any shots. He got overall mixed reviews, well, solid enough reviews from local press outlets in Brighton. Sussex Live and the Argos both giving him 6 out of 10. Sussex Live saying he won most of the areas duels, but was a bit slack in possession at times as his side grew weaker as the game wore on. And Clark also got 6 out of 10 rating from Chronicle Live, saying needless challenge to concede penalty, but atoned error with an assist, as I mentioned, when his header back down to Isaac Hayden. And obviously now it's been confirmed that Eddie Howe, as we touched on last week's show, has taken over the reins there, and hopefully a little bit more stability will come for the club in the northeast.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's a pressurised job. He hasn't got the best of squads. He's got a couple of his Bournemouth lads there. Maybe he can get the likes of Ryan Fraser firing, who was brilliant before he left Bournemouth as well. Before Project Restart anyway, because from what I remember, he didn't play in that because he didn't want to get injured before the new season or something.
He was out of contract, yeah.
Yeah, he's got Matt Ritchie as well, and obviously Callum Wilson, who I think has actually been very good for Newcastle since he's joined. He's had a couple of injuries, which he always seems to have anyway. But yeah, he's a decent. And look, they need to get firing soon because you don't want to be like Sheffield United last year, wait until January for your first victory. So they need to get firing soon. But as we mentioned with Norwich, they're going to have to win at some stage. And I think with some of the players they do have, they're probably too good not to win soon enough anyway. Maybe not against the likes of the bigger teams, but you could see them putting it up against the likes of Everton, the likes of Tottenham, Arsenal as well. Yourself. I have to mention those.
Careful now with the mention of Everton there.
Listen, it has to be mentioned. And sure, we move on to that game now, which was probably the most sitting duck 0-0 draw of the season so far.
It's the only game from this weekend I haven't watched it, and the highlights on Match Day 2. And going by that description, I won't be in a hurry to finish off watching Match Day 2 tonight to watch this game.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, anyway, we had 2 Irish involvements in it anyway, which is very good as well. Seamus Coleman played the full 90, and Matt Doherty came on for 20 minutes anyway. I think he's just coming back from injury, so that's a good sign. It was a 0-0 draw, a clean sheet for both. Probably more so for Seamus Coleman since he played the whole game. But good to see Matt coming back in, getting a bit of time, and hopefully with the new manager there, Conte, he can get a bit more time starting as well.
Yeah, it's mad to think it's actually only his second Premier League appearance of the season. I know you mentioned he's been suffering with injury since the last international window, but it's his first appearance since coming on as a sub in the 82nd or 83rd minute since the opening day against Man City. It's his first appearance in general in a Tottenham shirt since a Europa Conference League game against Miura from Slovenia back on the 30th of September. So, yeah, I was probably disappointed to see he didn't play some part in that crazy game against Vitesse Yarman the previous Thursday night to that, but got 20 minutes in. By all accounts, was meant to have a good involvement in the game. He whipped one goal cross in towards the end. As you mentioned, Seamus Coleman, much easier to gauge his performance because he played every second of this contest. And I just read up on a couple of different reports and players' ratings from this, and all around he come in for some very, very strong reviews. Very, very impressed with his defensive side of the game, which is good to see because, like a lot of Everton players, he was held up for criticism after a very, very poor performance 5 days previous away to Wolves.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a good sign for us tomorrow. He probably will start against, I don't know what, after watching our preview anyway with Proxima Jornada, I'm not sure what team Portugal are going to put out tomorrow, but they're still going to be extremely strong. And we need all our experienced players involved. And I think Seamus will definitely start, probably play as long as he possibly can. And looking forward to it anyway. It'll be a great experience and hopefully we can get a result from it. And good to see Seamus getting the full 90 and good to see Matt back in the side as well. One
just
more thing I want
on,
to... Oh, yeah, go on. No, you go on. And
yeah, just while
I'll
we're
go
on
last.
the two of them there, but before we move on to the championship, this is the first international window that both of them are fit now again since September. We've seen them both play in the back five away in that game in Faro. Seamus on the right, Matt on the left. They work really, really well. I know James McLean, who's come in recent weeks and has done fantastic on the left-hand side, but would you throw the two of them into the starting team tomorrow night? I know, Seamus missed the last kind of couple of games, but he's a captain. I think it's nailed on for me. And I think Matt Doherty, while it hasn't quite been happening from club form over recent weeks, his performances in the green shirt over the last 3 or 4 games have been, probably the best we've seen from him, definitely consistent wise anyway.
Yeah, definitely I would. I think I'd try start as similar as we can to that game because we caused them so much problems that day and we were very solid besides the last few minutes when we were under tons of pressure. So yeah, I try get as similar to that team as we can, and especially with the crowd at home, like a full capacity stadium for the first time since COVID, the ground's going to be buzzing. And look, I definitely think we can get a result from this after hearing how they might line up as well. They don't know what they have to do, so on, so on. Yeah, I definitely think we can get a result. And if we go with that similar enough side, I think that's a very strong side. And we could definitely get results from it, as I've said. Just one thing I wanted to mention, it's not Irish football related, Jer. Arsenal are coming for you now after the international break. They're coming for you. 2 points now. We're coming for you.
I was waiting for this. All right, the chip has definitely been knocked off my shoulder after last Thursday, which I have to say was a well-deserved defeat for Liverpool away to West Ham. And yeah, because if you actually win that game in 2 weeks' time, you actually will leapfrog us into the top four. But isn't it kind of great to see, though, that just even from your own point of view, from the Arsenal point of view, it's been doldrums for a long time, that you can actually now genuinely buzz and there's a real feel for you playing against one of the top 5 and top 6. And it's not just, it's just Arsenal versus Man United just for the name of it because, or Arsenal versus Liverpool just because of the name of it. But in reality, Arsenal are a mid-table team. They're now up there at the moment challenging. I say for the moment because I've seen this before with Arsenal, even under Arteta. You can go on great runs like this, but then you can completely undo it by going on a horrible run. Like, look at last year, was it just before Christmas, you couldn't buy a win, then you beat Chelsea on Stevens' Day, and then you go on a great run, and then you went back to being poor again after that. So this will definitely be a good test for Arsenal, and definitely, for Liverpool point of view, not a gimme. So that should be a good one, all right, in 2 weeks' time. Just on tomorrow night, I love your optimism, but the pessimist in me is always coming out for tomorrow night. I just have a bad feeling. I think Portugal could turn on the style tomorrow night, and I think all this optimism could be made look foolish after 90 minutes. I hope I'm wrong, but I just get this feeling I think Portugal could actually give us a bit of a run around tomorrow night. I hope I'm wrong, but I just have that feeling.
I'm just optimistic because I just don't think they really go out to hop off teams. You never really see them really.
I agree with you on that,
yeah. And I think that's just their manager's style. They just don't play that way. But obviously with Ronaldo, anything can happen. I know Bruno Fernandes hasn't been in great form, but listen, he could turn it on as well if he's playing too. So look, we'll see anyway, and it'll be a great occasion anyway with the full capacity again, which is all we want really.
Exactly.
We can move on to the championship. Do you want to run through the championship maybe, Jer?
I will indeed, yeah. So still a good bit to get through, even though there was just games in the weekend, no midweek action, obviously because of the international window. So Mark McGuinness picked up a yellow card and also made a mistake giving away a goal, but Cardiff still came from behind to beat Huddersfield 2-1. He had an undercooked back pass that was intercepted, but they were bailed out thanks to a couple of late goals from Kiefer Moore. It's their first win in 11 games since the 12th of September, and no surprise, he came in for poor ratings from Wales Online, giving him a 4 out of 10 rating. But they did conclude the rating saying he's a good player and he will come back stronger from this. Like he said, he's only a young player. It's a learning curve from him. And overall, in general, he has still shown good promise in a Cardiff team that's not been firing on all cylinders this season. It was clean sheet number 11 for Mark Travers as Bournemouth got back to winning ways with a 4-0 rout of Swansea. I actually thought this was going to be a humdinger of a game because Swansea been in great form late, but Bournemouth was absolutely wiped the floor. It's like as if, the old saying, the bear was poked after their defeat to Preston, and they just came back and laid down a statement in this game. And Gavin Kilkenny returned to the Bournemouth side after missing the game against Preston, and both players got 7 out of 10 ratings from Dorset Live. Ryan Manning played the full 90 minutes for the losing side in this contest. He got a 4 out of 10 rating on Wales Online, saying he looked rattled on several occasions and only really caused problems going forward when the damage was already done. So yeah, I think it was 2 or 3 at half time there to Bournemouth. Good to see former Liverpool player Dominic Solanke firing the goals in. Probably, it's fair to say, he's probably found his level in the Championship. Jason Malumbi played the full 90 minutes and Callum Robinson was substituted at half time as Middlesbrough took a point from the Hawthorns against West Brom. Of course, Malumbi and Robinson were action for West Brom. It was Malumbi's third start in 5 games. And interesting enough, on Robinson, we'll talk about that great international window he had in October where he scored 5 goals in 2 games. He hasn't carried that club form through, unfortunately, for some reason. It's the second time now in 6 games he's been substituted at half time. I don't think he's played the full 90 minutes from in any of them 6 games. Maybe last Wednesday's game where he got an assist, but yeah, he's struggled for some reason over the last kind of couple of weeks for West Brom. Hopefully that's not a sign of things to come and he can click his fingers and rediscover his Ireland form from October. Malumbi got the Birmingham Mail's man of the match from the West Brom players' ratings with a 7 out of 10 rating, and Robinson, no surprise, came in with a poor rating, just getting 3 out of 10, saying he just was not at it, and as touched on there, yeah, it just hasn't seemed to be at it for the Baggies for the last couple of weeks. Sammy Smaddox and Jack Taylor both played every second of Peterborough's game where they conceded a late goal to lose 1-0 to Fulham. Peterborough today gave Taylor a 7 out of 10 rating, saying disciplined midfield performance, while Smaddox got a slightly higher rating of 7.5 out of 10 rating, saying denied twice by the Fulham goalkeeper after strong runs in the penalty areas, his efforts and energy again were faultless. Greg Cunningham came on in the 56th minute as Preston suffered a heavy defeat, going down 3-0 away to Nottingham Forest. Festy Ebosele scored his first goal for Derby County as they drew 1-1 away to Millwall. Jason Knight was also involved in this game, and both players received 7 out of 10 ratings from the Derby Telegraph. Just on Ebosele, they said, started on the right of a 4-2-3-1 formation. His pace gave Millwall's left back a problem, and he scored his first senior goal. A special moment for the youngster, slotted in a right back after Byrne was sent off. And I was just watching once again the EFL show on Quest on Saturday night because I decided to have a quiet Saturday night for the first time in a couple of weeks. And Clinton Morrison as well, building him up, saying he's going to be a star. He's got real potential. So, all looking good there for Festy Ebosele and his breakthrough season with Derby. Just on Jason Knight, they say, give Millwall problems on the left with his winning runs and work rate. Tireless effort for the team. I don't expect him to start tomorrow night, but I think he could be someone who could be a fantastic option off the bench for us. Dan McNamara played the last 17 minutes of this game for Millwall. Callum McDowell won a penalty, but Bristol City still suffered injury time heartbreak as they lost 3-2 away to 10 men Coventry City. I was also watching Soccer Saturday and can't remember who was reporting on this game for them, but he should have even actually won a penalty just before that as well. He was brought down the box, but the referee deemed no contact there, or not enough contact maybe, possibly. And the Bristol Post gave him a 7 out of 10 rating. It was a 4th yellow card this season for Darragh Lenihan, but it was a much happier display this time for Blackburn Rovers as they recovered from that 7-0 pacing they received against Fulham to beat Sheffield United 3-1. And Lenihan went from getting a 1 out of 10 rating to an 8 out of 10 rating this week, and saying he handled the experience Billy Sharp well and proved crucial to deny Lens Mousse from reducing the deficit to 3-2 late on. John Egan and Enda Stevens both played in this game for Sheffield United, and their recent poor run of form, even individually, has also continued because they both just received a 3 out of 10 rating. But I think it's one of them. It's just collectively, it's just not
Yeah.
happening for Sheffield United this season. As you say, there probably still some form of a mental fatigue hangover from last season. Just two more bits of information. It's 3-3 for Scott Hogan. He's now scored for the third game running, but it was disappointment for Birmingham City. Despite taking the lead, they still lost 2-1 at home to Reading. He got 6.5 rating from the Birmingham Mail. As good as first half as Hogan has produced in the blue shirt, razor sharp, became less effective in the second half as Reading came into the game, but never stopped running. And finally, Jimmy Dunn picked up a yellow card as QPR drew 1-1 with Blackpool. Scott Hogan one for me is interesting. I wouldn't be his biggest fan. I think he's got plenty of opportunities in green shirt and hasn't quite taken them, but we're not blessed with options. We're not blessed with prolific goal scorers at the moment. And to see James Collins pull out the squad through injury, you would have think he would have been the natural automatic replacement, like I said, in good form and late. But he's gone with Callum O'Dowda, who Stephen Kenny has publicly kind of praised and seems to be a big fan of. But I still think, Scott Hogan can feel hard done by not to be in the squad. I don't think he'd possibly be starting tomorrow, but with his goal scoring form, certainly even the Luxembourg game, he could have been in a shout with that. I think he's, even though I'm not his biggest fan, but I always have to, you can't pick, what's the old saying, is it round holes for square pegs? Like, you have to kind of go with what you got here and be realistic. And I do think he's been unharshly left out here after Collins' injury.
Yeah, definitely. I think if a player goes out in a certain position, you should probably change it like for like in a certain position with another similar player for that position. He's been in great form the last few weeks, always does well at that level, even for a team towards the lower end of the table like Birmingham, even though they've improved the last few weeks, still a bad result on the weekend. Yeah, I think he should always be in with a shout. Anyway, I just don't think Stephen has fancied him at all since he's come in and taken the job. Whereas Mick McCarthy before it and Martin O'Neill definitely before it always had him in the squad. I remember when David McGoldrick got his only goal for Ireland against Switzerland, which is actually a really memorable one for me. I don't know why. Scott Hogan was just right beside him, ready to knock it in as well as him. So, it could have been him that night as well. So, yeah, definitely. I'm a bit surprised by it that he hasn't come straight in. O'Dowda is a good player, but I think he's more like he's not going to get you a goal, as you've said. Like, okay, he won a penalty the other day, but he's not going to come up and get you a goal. Like Scott Hogan, he might just nip in and get one. So, as you said, Luxembourg as well. We need goals in that game. We need to win that game more so than the Portugal. As you said, Portugal's a free hit too, so we need a result from the Luxembourg game definitely. I think you've got everything from the Championship there. I don't have anything to add.
One other kind of talking point from the Championship as well. Am I being a little bit too much of a pessimistic reading into Callum Robinson's recent slump at West Brom, or is it a case of he's been in good form in Ireland lately, and that's the kind of form and confidence he's going to take on into international window, that he can put all that club form behind him, and he's like, well, hold on a second here, I've got 5 goals in my last 2 games for this team, and the camp is obviously now in a much better place. Because I've touched on it before. That's kind of one of the reasons why I am kind of slightly nervous for tomorrow. I know we have a couple of players that are in good form this season, like Jamie McGrath, who expects to start tomorrow, Josh Cullen playing week in, week out, Shane Duffy back himself. But, Egan's form is a concern for me. Stephen's form, if he's to play tomorrow, is a concern for me. And Robinson as well. But, like I said, he is in a hot streak when it comes to playing for the boys in green.
Yeah, definitely. I think he should definitely start. Listen, with West Brom...
I think he will start, yeah.
Yeah. I think with West Brom, look, they've got more games as well. He might be tired. You don't know. He did have COVID as well not too long ago too. Yeah. So maybe the effects are still lingering, even though he was so good for us. You also have to mention West Brom have not been that great since the last international break. They've lost a couple of games. They got hammered by Fulham as well. And I mean, if you're a striker and your team is being beaten 3-0, you're never going to come off that great. And the manager is going to look to change you more so, or even the defenses. He's going to look to change everything. So, look, they haven't been overly great, West Brom. They've kind of fallen behind the top 2, Bournemouth and Fulham. So, yeah, I wouldn't worry too much. I think he's confident when he plays for us. I think the fans are really on his side at the minute, and I think he'll be looking forward to tomorrow. So, I think we'll be okay. I think he'll be okay, and I think we'll be okay. And sure, he's got a load of games coming up at Christmas as well, so he can try and get his form back then. There's going to be tons of games. Yeah, it's going to be tons of games. I want to mention the lads at Peterborough as well. There's some ratings for a team that got beaten 1-0. But what a result against that Fulham side who scored 7 on the midweek before, like, you know. Peterborough, who are down the end of the table as well, but they always seem to perform above themselves when they do come up. Like, I think even being in the Championship for them is a massive achievement. Some of the clubs who have come up into the Championship in the last while, fair play to them. I think Yeovil, when Paddy Madden was there a few years ago, they're now in the conference, which is insane. And you look at Peterborough, maybe not similar ilk, but when I first start getting into football, they were a League Two side. So look, fair play to them on that. And Fulham, who are free scoring at the minute as well. Mitrovic did get his 20th goal of the season, which is mad. But yeah, that's it from the Championship anyway. I think no League One and League Two action this week because we had the greatest cup competition in the world on round one. I've only got
second greatest cup competition in the world.
What's the first one?
The FAI Cup.
Oh, apologies.
I've never seen a goal in the FA Cup scored straight from tip off.
True. Even like that was Waterford for you this year. Even the game I was at, I saw Waterford twice. The UCD game, that was an absolute cracker
as well. Yeah,
it wasn't as good as your one, obviously, but that what? And then the cup semi-final, they kind
still
of
a 5-goal thriller, wasn't it?
Yeah, 5 got a UCD missed the penalty as well. But that's UCD for you. They're just a football team. That's it. There's just no messing with them.
Broke Gary Spain's heart lately. It's more like Gary Payne now at the moment.
Gary Payne, yeah. that was funnier than it probably should have been. Yeah. Anyway, the FA Cup. I'll do what I have anyway, and if you have anything to add,
super.
Yeah. Anyway, I start off with Aaron Drinnan, a man in form at the minute. He scored the winner for Leyton Orient in their win over Ebosele. They're into the second round as well, which is great for them. Conor Masterson got a goal for Cambridge, not Oxford, against Northampton. That was a 2-2 draw, so that'll go to a replay as well. God, love the replays. What a competition. Marcus Harness got the winner for Portsmouth against Harrow. Last time I heard of Harrow was a documentary on Sky One. And Owen Doyle got a goal for Bolton in their 2-2 draw with Stockport as well. So that's another replay. And yeah, that's all I've got. Anyway, there's so many matches, and it's even in these first couple of rounds, they don't really go into much detail on some of the apps and some of the things online as well. So do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, so it can be a difficult one for them because you have 40 ties and you have teams that like from Conference North, Conference South, National League North, or National Premier League North, National Premier League South. You probably even teams from country or county leagues, regional leagues in England. Like, so it is a difficult one. All right. Yeah, I've just a small bit more as well, just to touch on that game between Bolton and Stockport, as you touched on that Owen Doyle scored. And speaking of him, just there a couple of minutes ago, Paddy Madden actually got an assist in this game for Stockport. As you touched on, that game finished 2-2, so they require a replay. Another game that requires a replay is Rochdale against Notts County, and Corey O'Keefe scored for Rochdale in that game. As I mentioned, now them two sides will have to do it again to decide who progresses to the next round next week. Mark Sykes got an assist as Oxford drew 2-2 at home against Bristol Rovers. Once again, they'll have to sort that one out in a week's time. Just touching on that victory for Portsmouth against Harrow, that where you said Mark Harness got the winner. Just also worth noting as well, a second clean sheet in 3 games there for Gavin Bazunu. Rhys Murphy scored the opener for Southend, but they still lost 3-1 away to Chesterfield there. The 31-year-old previously represented Ireland at under 15 level and won 3 caps at the under 21 grade from 2011 to 2012. But he's a bit of a Jack Grealish here. He then went on to play for England under 17s, 18s and 19 levels. And of course, he was actually previously on the books at Arsenal, I think from 2008 to 2012, before going on to be a journeyman, and now he's playing his trade in the National League. Former under-21 international and former Everton player Harry Charsley got an assist as Mansfield dumped out Sunderland 1-0 at Stadium Light. A bit of an upset there. Mansfield, as far as I know, are League 2, knocking out, I was going to say the high-flying League 1 side, but it's the free-falling League 1 side. Sunderland have just capitulated in recent weeks. And when we say an assist, I think if anyone watches this one, because I just watched the highlights of it, it's a clearance that hits off him and it falls straight to the striker. But it comes from really, really good pressing in general from Mansfield. So good result for them there. Sunderland, just don't know what's happened with them in recent weeks.
Their manager was talking smack about the Carabao Cup, saying, "Oh, we'll take Arsenal or Spurs."
Yeah,
they've got us now, and they haven't won a game since. So look, listen, they might still beat us. It's a few weeks away, but look, don't talk before you win a couple of games
Yeah,
as well.
get your bread and butter right more than before you can concentrate on adding ham and cheese to the sandwich.
Yes.
Chinese Obane got an assist in Rotherham's victory as they had no problem seeing off National League side or non-league side Bromby or Bromley. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Bromby's more the Dutch side or the Belgian or the Danish side even.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Bromley, I think is actually how you pronounce it. They won that game 3-0 at home. Yeah, you touched on Conor Masson there. You touched on Aaron Drinnan. And finally, the other bit I have as well is Simon Power got the equaliser as Harrogate defeated Wrexham 2-1 as the League Two side there, avoiding an upset. That's his first goal of the season. So yeah, as you've seen there, a lot to get through from the FA Cup and more to keep an eye on from the first round. As you see, a lot of clubs that have Irish involvement will have to require replays next week.
Yeah, definitely. The replays are mad. I love how when it gets to the Premier League sides and they don't put out a decent side and then they have to play a replay. Even the foreign managers, they can't understand why there's a replay, why they have to play again. Yeah, I know. Oh, listen, I completely get it, especially for the smaller sides. It's completely justified. I agree with it being taken away from the quarterfinals. I think you don't need to really do it after that. But yeah, I just love when like even Arteta last year, like when we lost to Southampton, he didn't put in effort. If they'd got a replay, he probably would have gone even more mad. He probably just wanted to go out last year. So yeah, I just think it's what a great competition. What a great competition. Yeah, you've got everything else there, Jer. I have nothing else to add. But look, the FA Cup, great competition, and looking forward to January. Um, very much so.
Probably the
Every year,
only person who ever looks forward to January.
I'm looking forward to the FA. At least we have an opportunity. Look, we've got a Carabao Cup quarter final against the League One side, and I'm looking forward to the third round of the FA Cup. That's the fact of the matter. We can move on into Scotland now. Anyway, as you said, not much going on there, but we'll start off with Aaron McAniff. He got a goal for Hearts in their 5-2 win over Dundee United. Hearts still only lost one game this season and are well up there right beside Rangers and Celtic. All the lads played for St Mirren again. Joe Shaughnessy, Conor McCarthy, Alan Power, Conor Rowan and Jamie McGrath back as well. All played. They drew 0-0 with St Johnstone, so a clean sheet for the lads at the back. And back in actually with life in the Scottish League One. The only two teams I look out for in that league are Alloa Athletic and Queen's Park, and I think my mates think I'm mad looking for them. Jonathan Afolabi got an assist in theirs 2-2 draw with Inverness on Saturday as well, and that's all I have. Do you have anything else to
add? I actually just lost you there for a second with connection, but did you touch on Johnny Hayes and Jay Carroll? They were both introduced as substitutes.
I didn't get those two now.
They both came on as substitutes as Aberdeen bet Motherwell 2-0 in Fir Park. That's of course Motherwell's home ground. Ryan Sweeney picked up a yellow card in Dundee's 4-2 loss against Celtic. And also on the championship as well, I also have that Rory Patton got an assist in Queen of the South's 1-1 draw with Rate Rovers. And every time I hear Rate Rovers, I just think back to that old Soccer Saturday clip.
Rote Ravers, yes. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. Yes. I think that's it from Scotland anyway. Do you want to do Europe quickly, because you had a couple of things to add from it before we started the show anyway that I didn't get?
Yeah, so decent roundup from Europe this week. So I'll start with Bulgaria. Graham Carey played. Wait for this one. Graham Carey played 72 minutes as CSK Sofia bet CSK 1948 Sofia 1-0 at home. So they won the CSK Sofia derby. Now, these are the names that are given to me on Flash Score. If anyone else has another name out there for CSK 1948 Sofia, I'd love to know. Anyway, they won the game 1-0. They remain second in the table on 26 points, and they still trail leaders Ludogorets by 7 points. But they have that game in hand, which I'm sure they're going to play at some stage. Josh Cullen picked up a yellow card in another frustrating day for Anderlecht in the Belgian Premier League. This time they went down 2-0 to Antwerp away. They've now slipped down to 8th in the table and now trail the leaders by 10 points. But I don't think they'll be concentrating and looking at top spot too often. I think it'll be more, can they get back into them European places? One name, one bit of information that slipped on the radar with us a little bit in recent weeks, but was pointed out to me by a friend of mine, Paul Gallen, if you're watching. Ryan Johansson played 57 minutes for Fortuna Sittard in the Dutch Eredivisie, but they lost 4-1 at home to PSV Eindhoven. It was the third straight start in a row for the Ireland Under-21 International, after making the bench for a number of weeks prior to that. Fortuna Sittard are having a disaster of a season. They're 17th in the Eredivisie, second bottom on 9 points after 11 games. And finally, Elbouzedi scored his first league goal for AIK as they bet Ostersunds, of course, the side formerly managed by Graham Potter, and of course, famously bet Arsenal in the Europa League tie. Unfortunately for them, they had lost the first leg, so they didn't actually progress, but was still a
Came
famous day
close
for us.
enough.
Yeah. So they bet Ostersunds 3-0 at home on Sunday to keep their slim title hopes alive. It was an action-packed day all round for Sack because he also got an assist in this game and picked up a yellow card. So that's now 2 assists from the league, and that goal is his second goal in all competitions after previously scoring in the cup game. They've now climbed back up to third in the table, but they still trail leaders Malmo by 4 points with just 3 games to go. So they're probably going to need a bit of a miracle there if they're going to win. But great to see for Sack that he's continuing his recent form and now can add his first league goal to his name.
Yeah, brilliant for Zach. Great goal as well. If you haven't seen it yet, have a look on the channel as well. Look, they're still winning the title race. They've fallen away the last few weeks. They probably needed that 3-0 win, a bit of a cushion, give themselves a bit of confidence. Because even when I have seen them win since we've been covering it, like it's only been the likes of 1-0, 2-1, 1-0 wins.
Yeah.
So getting a couple of goals will be good for them coming into the last few weeks of the season as well.
But
it's
so mental in Sweden because I was looking at the table, like it's only the top 3 are guaranteed European places and they're only a point ahead of fourth. So while there's still possibly a slight ambitions of catching Malmo, like they also have to make sure as well they hold on to third and get European football for next year, because after all these efforts, not to have that would be a kick at the teeth. Now, I think the situation with Malmo as well, like as I mentioned, yes, they're 4 points off, but they need them and they need Djurgården to slip up. You're asking 2 teams to slip up in 3 games. It's a big ask. It's a really, really big ask. I think their main priority after the international break for the last couple of weeks of the season would be to hold on to third and have European football next summer.
Yeah, definitely. And see what happens in and around that anyway, yeah. But look, good they got the 3-0 and good for Zach to get his first goal and an assist as well. We can move. The last bit of information I have is from the franchise league anyway, the USA, MLS.
Last round of regular games.
Last round regular games. And
drama all over.
Drama. There is 3 all draws everywhere. But yeah, that's great because there's no relegation or promotion, so that's fine. Derek Williams played in LA Galaxy's 3 all draw with Minnesota United, which I think they were 3-0 down in that as well, to be fair, which is good going in that. And Jake Mulroney played the second half in Atlanta's win over Cincinnati, who I think finished bottom by a good bit as well. But that doesn't matter because they cannot get relegated. Do you have anything else to add there?
Yeah, just a couple of things on what some of them results mean then. So as you mentioned, Jake Mulroney came on at half-time for Atlanta in that game. They came from a goal down to beat Cincinnati 2-1, and they've now secured their place in the playoffs, and they will take on New York City after the international break. Shane O'Neill wasn't involved this week for Seattle Sounders as they drew 1-1 with the Vancouver Whitecaps, but he will hope to see game time as they will now face Real Salt Lake, depending on the pronunciation, in America. In the playoffs in a couple of weeks' time. The worrying thing, though, Seattle Sounders, while they've been home and holes for a number of weeks, I think that's 4 or 5 games now without a win. And yeah, the Derek Williams one is interesting with LA Galaxy. As you mentioned, they were 3-0 down this game. A couple of goals from Chicharito Hernandez got them back into it. They got a draw, but because of other results, actually including Salt Lake's win, means they've actually ended up finishing 8th, and they've now actually missed out on the playoffs. So Derek Williams is now in off-season mode, like myself. And John Gallagher missed Austin FC's last game of the season through injury, as their horrible season concluded with a 3-0 defeat away to Portland Timber. So we will keep an eye on them 2 playoffs involving Irish players when they resume after the international break. I don't know how the system works with 14 teams in the playoff. I'd imagine some teams have probably got a bye already through to the next round. I'm sure we can explain it to you next week. I just didn't have time to go looking into that too much. And I know how much your passion for the MLS means that you didn't bother looking into it.
No. No relegation for Cincinnati, even though
A-League is back as well, though, after the international break. So we'll have more Irish involvement in that as well.
Yes.
What's your views on that? Another league where you can't get relegated. And they've now expanded it to 12 teams.
Oh, brilliant. What a league. Well, look, at least there's not 27 teams in it, and then they play in different conferences, and then 14 teams get through to the playoffs, but 6 of them have to get buys because you can't have 14 teams playing against. I don't.
They do actually have end of season playoffs as well in the A League, and a bit like the MLS, it actually includes teams from another country. Wellington Phoenix, I know, participate in the league, and I think another team from New Zealand actually also could have been added to the expanded A League. But it is great entertainment to watch on a Saturday morning on BT Sport if you're at absolutely nothing else.
Yeah, if you're up at that time. Yeah.
But look, the games to be
they should be on about 8 or 9 in the morning.
Yeah, 8:30. Like maybe if there's a game and if Perth are playing at home, it could be even 10 o'clock because obviously Western Australia is only about 8 hours ahead of us, something else like that. But yeah, no, it's entertaining. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, look, at least it's only 12 teams and not an odd number 27 teams, which just is insane in America, and the 14-team playoff, which is fantastic to hear.
It really is rewarding mediocrity, isn't it?
Just Cincinnati, I think they're like, if you looked at it as if they were a Premier League team and the bottom 3 go down, I think they're miles behind. They should, something should happen there, and they're still going to get money for finishing bottom, which is, it just, I don't know. Anyway, I think we should wrap it up there before my head explodes. Thanks very much, Jer. You're going tomorrow, obviously, are you?
I am indeed, yeah. And probably will be another week off for us next week. Well, I'll be away because I'm heading over to the game on Sunday, and then I'm going to do a bit more gallivanting across Europe after that. So, there won't really be much to report on again next week because obviously the international week only be kind of League 1, League 2. So we'll probably be back again in 2 weeks' time, and that'll be a clean run ahead then until the next international break in March.
Yeah, definitely. I actually think there's a small one, not including Europe, in January for the.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So which would be great. We can all look forward to another international break.
I was looking at the championship is still actually going ahead. It's just the Premier League that's breaking because I don't actually think it's because of the African Cup of Nations. I think it's more so because the South American World Cup qualifiers are on, and I suppose throw in the African Cup of Nations, it probably helps for the likes of Liverpool, who have a lot of African players. I think they're only going to be missing at maximum for 4 games now, so it's not too bad,
yeah. Look, listen, it has to be done. I think the South American Federation are absolute nutters anyway. The fact that they've had that many Copa Americas in the last few years baffles me, and how they should have just cancelled it and played qualifiers in the summer would have made sense, and then you could have done the Copa America this year because there's nothing on this summer. So
yeah, and they still have to sort out that Brazil-Argentina game that got called off after 8 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. God, at least you as corrupt as UEFA are, at least it runs smoothly in football terms. Anyway,
yeah.
In comparison to that, anyway. Look, Jared, thanks very much. We'll leave it there, top man.
No worries, Paul. I'm sure I'll see you tomorrow night.
Definitely.